I believe that we will have the votes to pass this in Congress. I believe that the president will keep fighting and that the American people want to have this kind of health reform.
But you don't have the votes yet.
Well, look, the president will have more to say about that later this week, and he's working with the Congress on how best to address that.
We'll be waiting to hear what he says about that. But joining us now, we have one of the very best political reporters in the entire state of Texas, Wayne Slater with the Dallas Morning News. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, great to be with you.
So what happens tomorrow?
That's a big question.
Like prediction.
Great weekend. I was going to say I had a great weekend. I spent some time with Kay Bailey Hutchison, who rode a horse among about 100 horses in the Houston Rodeo Parade. Rick Perry was meanwhile in Dallas at a gun show. Guns, horses, and secession. Welcome to the Lone Star State.
It sounds like Texas.
I think you're. Yeah, it's good. You know, it's going to be a problem for Kay Bailey Hutchison. She may be able to stretch this into extra innings with a runoff, but the Rick Perry people are very, very confident that he's going to win tomorrow, win the Republican nomination for re-election without a runoff. We don't know. It'll be close.
What is Rick Perry doing that governors around the country aren't doing? The fact that he's been in office for almost 10 years now and still has this wide popularity, a lot of other governors would love that kind of magic.
Yeah, I mean, he really has two things. One is we have an economy here in Texas that's better than many other states. And if you travel with Perry, you know that he talks all the time about how Texas is better than California. He's doing better than Arnold with the economy, which plays to certainly some voters. But more importantly, in the current race, this is a Republican primary, red state voters. And Rick Perry saw very early on that this Washington Tea Party movement, this anti-Washington uprising, was very effective. And he framed the campaign that way. Kay Bailey Hutchison is Washington and all things bad about Washington. I'm Texas, state sovereignty, first 10th Amendment and so for states' rights. That has been very, very successful. It's not about issues. I mean, you know, we all know the old line that all politics is local. This year it seems so much of politics is really national and nationalizing a race like this.
Now, what about the Tea Party factor down there? You have this Tea Party candidate, Deborah Medina, and she obviously has had some stumbles along the way here. But is she going to force a runoff?
Well, if there is a runoff, obviously that's the reason there is one. She was rising we had two debates, Republican debates, and she did very well. She's very knowledgeable, well-spoken, and I think she satisfied some concerns that people had that she was surrounded by a bunch of fringies in the way that she talked about sovereignty in Texas. But then she made a mistake and talked on a radio show about how maybe the government was involved in the 9/11 terrorist attacks, and some of her support, however strong it might have been at one point, seems to be dissipating. That's what's happened. If she falls, say, to 12, 11, 10%, then Rick Perry very well and most likely will win on tomorrow with 51% of the vote.
And briefly, Wayne, in our last 30 seconds, any chance that Bill White, the likely Democratic candidate, pulls this off in November?
Absolutely. Look, he's well thought of, strong Democrat, can raise a lot of money. Houston will be a quarter to a third of the entire electorate in November, and he's business friendly, seen as a moderate. Rick Perry will go after him as sanctuary Bill, sanctuary city, that he's not very good on abortion, and he's a liberal Democrat, a friend of Obama. But this guy, Bill White, is a kind of boring Mr. Fix-It character, might be exactly what the electorate wants to see in Texas after a decade of Rick Perry.
It could be the equation. Thanks a lot. Wayne Slater from the Dallas Morning News joining us from lovely Austin. Actually, doesn't look so lovely there today. I love Austin, but not the nicest of days. My former colleague at the Dallas Morning News, Wayne. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. And that does it for this edition of Top Line. I'm Rick Klein.
I'm Jonathan Call.
It's twitter.com/TheNote. Keep the conversation going. I love Texas politics.
Yeah, it's great. And